Hello, my name is Oscar Montenegro, and this is my presentation on why doing goal specific training is important. So, what I'm going to be touching on is different types of training as far as like exercising goes, the different types of training you can do based off your goals. So, if you want strength, if you want endurance, if you want muscle mass, all these different types of things we're going to touch on and why it's important. So, first, we're going to be talking about what your specific goals are. If your goal is to lose weight, there's a certain type of training for you. If your goal is to gain weight, get stronger, more endurance, or just want a healthier lifestyle, or even if you need a hobby, there's different goals for everyone. There's different things to do based off your goals. And that's the first step in figuring out what type of training is going to benefit you the most. So you need to sit down with yourself, figure out what you want in the end, with short term, long term, and then from there, that's how you figure out what program to get on, and that will take you to your goal the fastest. So a big thing is time management. So what type of activity does your time allow you to do? When I say this, I refer to someone who has 5 hours of free time per day is able to do different types of exercises, go to a big commercial gym and, and work out for hours. But there's others who maybe work all day and have kids and have a different situation where their time is very, very, very short as far as what they can use to work out. So, for instance, someone who doesn't have a lot of time will be more interested in maybe an at-home workout or calisthenics or high-intensity interval training, something that's quick, to the point, gets the heart rate up, but at the same time, this may not be where you're trying to get to. So if someone who's trying to build muscle mass only has 30 minutes or an hour to work out per day, and they choose to do it at home, it's going to be a lot harder to build muscle. It's going to be a lot harder to, move forward and progress when all you have is the things at your home and you don't have a lot of time to develop what you need to develop. Another thing that's very important that can come in with time management is your diet. Certain times we don't have time to go out, or we don't have time to cook at home, so we tend to go out and eat because it's faster, but that may not be the best option as far as nutrition goes. Exercise and nutrition work hand in hand. So if you don't have time to work out or have time to cook, it's going to be very hard to see progress. It's going to be very hard to get closer to those goals compared to if someone, like I said, has a lot of free time. They're able to cook. They're able to go to the grocery store and count these calories and macros and figure out what works for them and what doesn't, compared to someone that doesn't have a lot of time. So diet is very important, and it works hand in hand with time management, and it works hand in hand with the different types of exercises and your goals. Next, the first type of training we're going to be talking about is strength training. Now, this training contains low reps, so not a lot of repetitions, typically in the 3 to 5 range, 3 to 5 repetition range with heavy weight. So what this is training your body to do is get very comfortable lifting heavy amounts of weight, but not doing it for a long time. And a con about this training is that you may not gain much endurance, and you will gain weight due to building a lot of muscle mass. You won't gain a lot of endurance because you're doing repetitions for only 3 to 5 to maybe 6 times, so you're not spending a lot of time doing the actual exercise itself. You're spending more time resting. There's typically a 1 to 2 minute rest time per set. That way you could continue to lift these heavy amounts of weights. But it is great if you're trying to gain strength, gain size, but again, you won't typically lose a lot of weight. Unless you're barely beginning. You'll shed weight just because that's like the dead weight that everyone gets rid of when they start working out. But once you get rid of that first wave of fat, it's going to be a lot harder to drop weight, and it's going to be a lot easier to gain muscle and strength. Next type of training is circuit training. Now, circuit training and can kind of be CrossFit. It's multiple exercises done in succession, typically 7 to 10 different exercises. So, if doing this in a CrossFit gym, they may have different stations set up, and you would go through and do, you know, exercises 1 through 10 for 1 minute each, and you keep doing it for rounds. That's something that would be counted as circuit training. Typically, there's a little bit of rest between station to station. It includes all type of different exercises, resistance exercises, so exercises with rubber bands, certain stuff like that, wall sits, endurance exercises like jump rope or jumping jacks or high knees, and it targets strength building and muscular endurance. So, on top of building, strength, you also build muscular endurance. Now, what this means is it is training your muscles to lift the same amount of weight, just more. So, for instance, if on week 1 I lift 100 pounds, 2 times, if I continue to do circuit training, I will be able to lift that 100 pounds, 12 times or 15 times due to that muscular endurance. My muscles are more conditioned to being put under that stress for long amounts of time. The next training is HIIT training, or high intensity interval training. Now, this is very similar to circuit training, except it's much more intense. There's typically 0 rest between exercises, and you transition seamlessly from exercise to exercise. And it's maximum effort the whole way. No rest, no water breaks, and it lasts between 7 to 10 minutes. So this type of training would be perfect for someone who, doesn't have a lot of time, works a lot, has a big family. It's perfect because you can bang it out fast. It's very effective. But the thing with this is a negative, I would say, is that you're not able to progress as much, just because you don't have a lot of time to work out, or in the stuff you do is not with weights. It's typically crunches, jumping jacks, mountain climbers, sprints, stuff like that, where you don't really need a lot of material to get it done. But it's very hard to get your heart rate up, and it can be very challenging. But like I said, it's hard to progress as far as weight goes. You'll lose a lot of weight doing this because it's a lot of cardio. You'll lose a lot of weight, and it'll be very, very difficult to gain a lot of strength, but you will gain a lot of muscular endurance. So the next training we're going to be talking about is aerobic training. Now, this specializes specifically in endurance. So this has to do with swimming, jogging, cycling. These are all examples of aerobic training. Aerobic refers to the oxygen that's going to be going into you. You're going to be breathing heavy. Your heart rate's going to be up. You're going to be losing weight, but depending on if you want to or not, you're going to be losing weight and muscle mass if you do it in excess. So your body's going to get so used to moving so much that if you're not lifting heavy weights, your muscle mass will start to go, but you will be very, very, very fit as far as able to run miles without stopping, or able to swim for long distances. That all has to do with aerobic training. That's why swimmers typically are more slim than, let's say, Olympic weightlifters or hockey players or football players. It's because their training is constantly aerobic, always fast heart rate, out of breath. Very intense, so they tend to be more slim than someone who does like strength training and is big and burly. Something about this, it improves heart health, so your heart will be a lot stronger because it's being constantly put under stress, to where you won't need a lot of beats per minute. At your resting heart rate will be a lot lower than someone who doesn't train aerobic. And next is calisthenics. So calisthenics involve large muscle groups working in unison to lift body weight. So this has to do with push-ups, pull-ups, human flags. And although calisthenics can be very hard to begin with, the threshold for it is it's not very much. So Once you're able to do, a bunch of pull-ups and a bunch of push-ups and able to do a human flag, there's not really much to progress past that. And that's a con to this. You'll be very strong as far as body weight goes, but lifting heavy weights more than your body weight will typically be a little bit more challenging compared to someone who has more experience in strength training. People who train calisthenics typically have a decreased body fat, but are very defined as far as their muscularity goes. It's inexpensive and it's functional. I see a lot of people, they go to parks and use the pull-up bars, or to do push-ups, all you need is the floor. So it's very inexpensive, very convenient, but there isn't a lot of progress to be made after you reach a certain level. So why is it important to focus your training? So, for instance, I'm a football player. So if I was working specifically on just calisthenics, it would be very hard to me to excel, because that's not what my sport is based off of. My sport is based off of strength, power, quickness, and a combination of everything. So if you don't focus your training, you could lack in something that can be easily an advantage if you just focused on the right things. For instance, someone who swims wouldn't constantly strength train because they would then be too heavy. Or someone who runs track would typically be training strength 24/7, because that would just slow them down. So it is important to focus your training if you don't want to lose track or reach your goals later than you should. It's very important to set a focused curriculum about what you need to do. It's very important to be organized when working out and finding what exercises work for you and your time. And so I just named a bunch of exercises. If you sit down and figure out what your goals are, it could then be a lot easier to figure out what type of training you need. And I hope this helped.